Hey everyone, it's 10 Types, and in the Pokemon TCG, abilities are something that are really important to good decks. And so if you take a deck like, say, Dragapult EX itself doesn't use an ability, but then Dracoloak does, and that's quite nice. You have stuff like Pheasantipty EX and things like that, which are really great support Pokemon, and most cards in most decks do have abilities, like in Charizard here. We can see Charizard EX has an ability, Pidgeot EX does, Dusclops and Dusknoir, Rotom V, Lumineon V, which have rotated, but they're all there for the ability. Some Pokemon also are there for the attack, but it's more the Pokemon that are there for the ability than are there for the attack. And a Pokemon like Charmeleon has an ability which is okay. It doesn't help too much, but it's a nice little addition. But there are some Pokemon abilities that are super bad. Today I'm just going to be going over standard. So if you want me to make a video covering other abilities or even Pokebuds and Pokepowers or Pokemon powers and talk about ones of those that are really bad, comment that down below because there are some that are much worse than these, I think. But this Charmeleon is fine. It's not that bad. However, an ability here that we have that is, not very good is going to be Haunter from 151. This is the first card we're going to talk about, and it's technically not bad. It's technically like kind of good, I guess. Its ability says when you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon during your turn, you may put a supporter card from your opponent's discard pile into their hand. And, it's probably not good to do this, but you can choose not to, so it's technically not bad, but it's not good to do generally. And it is meant to work with the Gengar from 151, which does more damage based on supporters, or based on trainers in their hand, including supporters, so that's all right. Actually, I think that's what it does. I have not planned this out, so I'm going to double check on that one. That'd be awkward if I got it wrong. Yeah, so it's trainers in general. It's 50 for each trainer there, but you don't know how many trainers are in their hand, so you don't actually know what this is going to do. It's not a very good card, but it's like technically nice to do. I don't know if it's really worth using the ability, honestly, because yes, you do more damage, but you're also helping your opponent. There are technically situations where this doesn't help them or could actively hurt them if you combo it with certain trainers and they want to combo certain trainers with their discard and things like that, but that's really niche. Overall, this ability is bad because you just don't want to use it, but you can always not use it, so it's technically like neutral. Having ability means certain things can be issues like hitting certain Pokemon, but that doesn't matter that much either for this. But Haunter's definitely one of the weaker cards. Now, I guess I'll give an honorable mention to Mewtwo EX or Team Rocket's Mewtwo EX, which is coming out in the next expansion, which is called Destined Rivals Internationally, or Team Rocket Returns or something like that in Japan. So that is a card with, again, it's not out yet. It has an ability. It means it can't attack, I believe, unless you have 4 or more Team Rocket's Pokemon in play. That's obviously bad, and kind of we'll see more of as we get into things. But that card's not out yet. Also, if you're enjoying the content, consider subscribing because that helps a ton. But anyways, the next card we have here is Palafin EX. Palafin EX is one of my favorite cards when it got revealed, I guess. If you play this in Pokemon TCG Live, you know it didn't work. It was like, it just was completely terrible. No, it was very buggy. I think my most recent short was on it. I don't know. I don't really post shorts, but posted one about this, and it just completely crashed the game. And not because of Palafin EX itself, but because of the single prize Palafin. Because Palafin EX is a build. Well, first of all, its stats are insane. It has 340 HP, which is tied for the highest. Tied for the highest in standard right now. There will be cards with higher HP than that, including Mega Gardevoir EX. We saw has more, but that's not out yet. So Palafin EX is tied for the highest on like a regular card, and it's also stage 1. So it's the highest stage 1, I believe, by itself. And then there's VMAXs, which are like stage 1s, but then you have Giga Impact, which is 250 for 1 water. It cannot attack back-to-back turns, which playing with this deck, it's like a little annoying, but it's not that bad. 250 for 1 is obviously incredibly efficient, and this Pokemon, if that's all it said, it'd be really good. It might be broken, it might just be very, very strong, but its ability is obviously bad to balance it out, and these are not in any particular order, except for the first one is the least bad. It's the best, I guess. It's kind of good, but this one's objectively bad because it can't be played. You can use it again to play with 0 to Hero on Palafin, the ability, but that's the only way to play it. You cannot manually evolve it. You cannot cheat into play some other way either. So this is meant to, of course, go with that Palafin. And that Palafin has ability 0 to Hero, which says when, and it's also like really long, but so when you switch this Palafin from the active to the bench, then you can evolve, or essentially switch this with the Palafin next in your deck, and stuff stays attached. It's actually really weird. This is the card that got glitched in live. but Palafin is cool, I guess, and it goes to that Pokemon. It's kind of a 2-for-1 combo-y card, and we've seen some other cards. There's like a Shedinja, kind of like this, which actually, I don't know if I'd say broke the game, but it was weird because Pokemon have to make a new rule about it because of the way it was designed. But anyways, Palafin EX is not really a stage 1. It's more so kind of like a stage 2. It's probably a little hard to get into play than a stage 2. But anyways, this isn't about the design of the card. It's a fine enough design, pretty thematic with the video game. But yeah, the ability is objectively pretty bad, and it's one of the hardest Pokemon in the game to get into play. And because of its ability and the restriction on its ruling, and the 0 to hero ability isn't, I mean, I guess it's the good because it's the only way to get this into play, but it's pretty tedious, involving a lot of switching, and then attacking, you need switches again to attack back-to-back turns, and also you want to like heal up yourself because you have high HP and 1 attack cost, so you kind of want to use Professor Terra's scenario, but then you can't play the Palafin EX back down once you've used it, so it's overall really, really clunky. Fun to play. I definitely recommend trying it if you have not played the deck. The deck's kind of fun, but it's not super strong. The next card we have is Great Tusk EX. This ability, I guess, is technically not always bad. Apparently, it's been played a tiny bit. I have not played this card, I don't think. It has 250 HP on a basic. Pretty much all these Pokemon have insane stats. I guess not the Haunter, but the other ones do. And the ability is there to nerf them. Then you have an okay attack, I guess. I mean, it's 260, which is, I mean, it's a solid number to be hitting, and it's 4 energy, but it is a basic. There are ways to get the energy on, and it hits through effects, which is fine enough, I guess. But the attack isn't that good. Then you have the ability, which says once at the end of your turn, after you attack, if this Pokemon is in the active, you must discard the top 5 cards of your deck. And this is pretty bad, right? You're just milling 5 random cards to the top of your deck. That's generally bad, because you could get rid of stuff you need, and you're probably not going to get rid of the stuff you want to get, right? Even in decks like Serial GX, for example, that wants certain cards that you want the energy in the discard. That's not most of your deck. So you're going to mostly get rid of cards that you want to keep and not hit that many energy cards that you want to discard. So it's a really niche. I considered playing in United Wings. I might have actually done that. I don't remember. I don't think it made it into a video, but Great Tusk EX's ability is probably bad. I'm interested in hearing your thoughts if you think this is objectively bad, like essentially almost all the time, or if it is a card that has use cases, or if you played it, actually. I'd really be interested in hearing people if they played it, and if they played it to use its ability or in spite of its ability, because it has a lot of HP, though it's not like absurd. I mean, it's the same as the other Great Tusk, I believe, which, yeah, also has 250. I guess this can have Ancient Boost Energy Capsule, so it is very tanky. But its attack's not very good. It's not the worst attack I've ever seen, but it's certainly not very strong. It's a card that was, its ability is really unique and interesting, but unfortunately it's pretty bad. It doesn't really have a use case, partially because of its ability. The next card we have here is Slaking, and I'll give a spoiler. The last 2 cards are both Slakings. Slaking tends to have cards that are like bad. The abilities are bad. I don't think they're all bad, but for example, this one it can attack as if there's a stadium in play, so that's kind of unfortunate for it. This one can only attack if your opponent has 2, 4, or 6 prizes remaining, which is, or no, it cannot attack if they have 2, 4, or 6, which is actually most of the game, so that's like kind of bad, but there are ways to turn it off. And then this one has an ability that says if this Pokemon is asleep, you flip 2 coins instead of 1 during Pokemon checkup. If either is tails, this Pokemon is still asleep. That's bad. You don't want to be asleep, and you do 240 for 3 colors, then put yourself to sleep. This Pokemon isn't particularly good. I don't know. I might be playing GLC. I'm not super familiar. I know there's another good Slaking as well, but it's not super strong. I mean, it's like decent stats, but then you put yourself to sleep and probably can't attack. The ability's not even that bad because you're probably not surviving hits, but it's obviously not good either. You don't want to be asleep. It's a weird ability. We've seen stuff like this on Snorlaxes before, and actually I've seen some people get confused by this. The Snorlax isn't in standard anymore, but there's the one with this one, and then there's also another Snorlax. There might be a few like this, but with Stir and Snooze, this is, the same ability as Slaking. So this one has that ability. However, the other Snorlax from Lost Origin, again, it has rotated, but was played a bunch, or played a decent amount, and it had its attack Thumping Snore, which it puts itself to sleep, and then it says, essentially the ability from Slaking is on the attack of Snorlax. Snorlax has an ability, but that's not the ability. The ability stops effective attacks done to it from your opponent's Pokemon, which some people get. I've heard multiple multiple people get confused and think the ability is the coin flip thing. But anyways, figured I'd mention that there. But yeah, Slaking is a card that has a bad ability here, and the Slaking EX also has a bad ability. This one is interesting. It has 280 for 2 colors and has 340 HP. This would be really strong if not for its ability, and I think it's still pretty decent, or it'd be strong at least, because it's, you look at it, right, its stats are just good. Then you have the ability Born to Slack, which says if your opponent has no Pokemon EX or V, which are rotated but were in the game in play, this Pokemon cannot attack, so that's obviously bad for it. Most decks are, if you play the Pokemon TCG, you know most Pokemon mini attackers are Pokemon EX, so that's obviously bad for, or that's good for this card. Also, they have like weird double negative stuff here, which confused me the first time I read it, or no, I think the second time I read it. But anyways, it's a card that can usually attack, right? But your opponent could theoretically play around it, and then you just can't do anything. So then you just lose, which would be unfortunate. I actually did play, I played the Slaking in Slaking EX, and that was quite an experience. Not the best, but kind of interesting. But anyways, this Slaking EX has an interesting ability that can lead to some unique scenarios. Though I guess I was going to say interesting scenarios, but they just kind of lead to no one really doing anything. But anyways, it's definitely a bad ability. Tell me down below in the comments, though, which of these you think is the worst, and if you think there are any abilities that have been printed that are worse than these. But I hope you enjoyed. As I said, consider subscribing, liking the video, comment down below your thoughts. But I hope you enjoyed, and as always, I'm excited to see you in the next video.